I'm sorry, I ran out of gas.
Okay, would everyone go green, please?
It's so stressful.
That's much nicer with that.
I was dying.
Thank you. Okay, we have no action pertaining to executive session, and so right now I'd like to open it up for a portion of the meeting where we allow public comment. I want to run through the outline of the rules again. You're limited to 2 minutes. Mr. Parnell will let you know when you're approaching the 2 minutes. It's not a conversation. It's an opportunity to address the board. Please speak directly into the mic so that people at home who are watching the live stream can hear you. Okay? Is there anyone signed up who would like to address the board at this point? Anyone? Going. All right. Well, hearing no takers, we'll move on to the superintendent's report, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Dr. Paolino.
Okay, just a few things on the superintendent's report for tonight. I'm going to kind of mix around from the letter that I sent, or that's from the agenda for the board. First thing is the Jfk Playground update, just to let everyone know. On May 11th, we will start with our build for the Jfk Playground, which will be a week-long build, community build with the assistance of the playground company. We expect it to be ready and have a grand opening on the 18th. Dr. Perez has asked for us to have a ribbon cutting during the day on the 18th so the children can be there to help with that ribbon cutting. I don't have a time yet, but as soon as I do, I will communicate that to the board, and we will have it up on the website, and people will know. So we will have a new JFK playground by the 18th of May, which is exciting. Also, I did want to, I have a lot of requests. I know everyone reads the newspapers, but I just wanted to make sure that the board, just in case you missed it, requests regarding the state testing, and as far as our opt-outs were concerned, for the math portion of the state testing, we had district-wide 3 through 8, an average of 44% of our students had opted out of the test. And for ELA, which was the first group of tests, district-wide, 3 through 8, we had 41% of students opt out of the test. Again, it was various by buildings, and I sent the breakdown to the board if you wanted by building, but it was between 37 and 53%. Our middle schools were the places where we had the highest, the lowest participation rate, I should say, with a 47% participation rates at the middle schools.
Dr. Has
there been any reaction from the state to the district about what the implications might be?
Not as of this, no, not right now, not yet.
And I haven't heard anything about a state reaction given like the whole statewide opt-out movement. Have you?
No, there's been no official reaction. I mean, there's been a lot of talk,
sure.
A lot of statements. I wouldn't say any of them were official or any policy put forward to the Board of Regents or anything.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been any guidance in terms of the APPRs, the new APPRs and teachers' evaluations in terms of the utilizing the state test scores?
Well, no, not as of yet. We're still waiting. Again, as you know, the Board of Regents is developing the APPR, and we are waiting. And again, a lot of talk, a lot of things going on, and a lot of people who know everything. But I like to wait until it actually we hear from the State Education Department, so I don't really spend a lot of time chasing the rumors.
Any other questions?
Okay, first thing I would like to have Robert Strodamus from BBL give us our summer project update. And we have maybe a new wrinkle in our summer projects. I think it's importantly discuss? Cool.
For this summer, for our summer project itself, for the capital projects?
Yes.
Capital projects are on schedule and all set to go. We're starting at GW probably about the end of the month to start doing the pipe hangers for the new heating system. Other than that, all the submittals are in and approved, and we're just waiting for school to finish up so that we can start at the other schools.
Can you talk a little bit about the pool?
The pool is out for bid right now. We put out the notice to bidders last week. We had a pre-bid meeting yesterday, and we are accepting bids on the 14th of May. It'll be just for the repair of the pool proper, just the pool itself with the ADA lift, nothing else within the pool the pool room itself. New coating, paint, tile, and then repairs to the drain, fixing all of that, and then the mechanical system.
So what is the issue with the pool now?
It's losing 10,000 gallons of water a day. So so this has been removed from the Second Century
It has been
project.
removed, exactly.
And we're doing it this summer.
Yes.
So that we can have public and school district use of the pool.
So the start date for the actual work at the pool, it'll start on June 3rd, second shift, go through the end until school is over, and the completion date for the pool work, including refill, is August 27th. And Glenn has been made aware, everyone's aware, and any changes that are needed for the swim program are being taken into consideration.
So is it usable now? I mean, we're replacing
Yes.
10,000 gallons a day?
Yes.
From where, a fire hydrant or something?
No. Mr. Clapper, do you want to step up? Sorry.
It's actually about 1,000 gallons a day. We had a bigger.
Sorry, it's 10,000 a week.
Yeah, 10,000 or so. It's a little over 1,000 gallons a day. We made a minor repair to it. It's at the top of the pool, so like over the weekend when no one's there, it drains down to a point and stops. There's actually a 2-inch fill pipe for the pool, and every morning we go in and we fill it back up to the correct level. That's what happened.
It's 2 tankers.
Yeah. That's why I don't run the pool.
So it will be ready for school to begin in September?
August 27th is the completion date, yep. And that includes time for DOH for the Department of Health inspections, and all of that is been figured in for the schedule, and the refill, so.
Okay, and nothing else will happen there? No hydraulic lift, no bleachers, nothing?
The
It's
ADA
all
lift
part-
is included,
The ADA lift is included, okay.
yes, as part of the project, but that's the only thing that's included in the pool room itself, no bleachers or anything like that, but we're going
No
to do the
locker room.
repairs to the pool.
Nothing, okay.
And then, yeah, we are taking the pool obviously offline early in June, but that's all been approved.
Just out of curiosity, I know the girls' swim team starts practice over the summer, but are there any other community groups or like typical uses over the summer of the pool besides that? I know probably there's lifeguarding and scuba.
There is a lot, but I think actually Mr. Clapper again is raising his hand, so I'll call on him.
I've been coordinating with the athletic director, Glenn Mage, and he's coordinating with the pool at the YMCA, Xena Rec. He's calling all the folks in the neighborhood to try to accommodate for all that. The completion date of 27 is also into the tryout period for the swim team.
Yeah.
So he's making recommendations for that. He felt that this project was so important that he moved his schedule around for us to complete at the time.
Well, I know often the girls' swim team practices at Andretta right east of the summer, so yeah.
And we decided that this pool, I mean, it's been leaking for a while. Right? So why did we decide now is the time that we had to make this? Why couldn't we wait for the capital project?
If we were, well, in my opinion, we couldn't do it this summer if we waited for the capital project, or for the high school project. We would miss the opportunity this summer to do it, so it would put it off a year with the amount of water that was coming out and the state of repair.
So we probably would have had to close the pool.
Very possible.
But also,
Thanks.
also the opportunity to get the lift in. You know,
And make it compliant.
Okay, thank you.
Well, just to be clear too, so the public may know that the pool is used for credit earning classes too, right? So
Yeah, the pool is used during the school day.
Yeah.
All of our ninth grade students take class in the pool. That's a very important part of our PE program. We also, but if anyone who knows anything about the pool, it is in use all day, every day, except for maybe December 25th. But other than that, there's people in there from 5 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. The pool is used by our community and our students. Okay, last thing on the superintendent's report is a Second Century update. And as we know, 2 meetings ago, I had made a statement to the board, and I think we've had a lot of follow-up questions and conversations. We've done a lot of work with KSQ and BBL to get our information together and be able to communicate with the board. I think back on March 25th, we communicated originally, everything that we knew at the time in a very short window from when we found it out. So we've asked BBL and KSQ to sharpen their pencils and come back and give us a presentation that would kind of fill in some of the gaps and explain some of the details that maybe we didn't do such a great job explaining on the 25th. I think it's important to know, and I think in my letter to the board, what the packet said, we hastily came forward with the information, but our goal was to be out in front of this and so have the board know everything we know as quickly as we know it. So in doing that, we may have made some mistakes. So we want to sharpen our pencils and clear up some of that information. And I'm going to turn it over. Armand, I didn't see you come in. To Armand Quadrini from KSQ, our architect, to give us a brief presentation and answer some questions. Thank you, Armand. I didn't see you come in. I will say also, along with Armand is Blake, and I never say his name correctly.
Auchincloss.
Thank you, Auchincloss. It's not that hard, actually. And Mike DeLima and Robin Skordamus from BBL are here as well.
We appreciate this opportunity to address the school board and the community, to add additional information to the presentation that we made a couple of board meetings ago. I just wanted to share a personal note with the school board. Our team has been living and breathing this assignment for the last 15 months. We work on it, a lot of us 6 days a week, and I think we gave you some high-level data last time out, and we need to be more mindful of really giving you the nuts and bolts and the details as we move forward. The presentation that we have for you this evening is an objective side-by-side comparison of the criteria that was shared with the community in the fall of 2013 prior to the vote, and how it is shaken out in the final design. Go ahead. So I'd like to jump right in and talk about first, in terms of the bond scope, the site work. And again, we're stepping up our strategy in terms of how often we communicate with the board. We plan to be here at least once a month to give you updates and to answer questions on a more regular basis. We want to be as transparent as possible. There's a lot of data in the meeting records that are in the district's website and digital file cabinet, if you will, on the project. But it's so important that we're here verbally talking about the project and again, being mindful of any questions and answers that you might have. So about a year and a half ago, if you had seen this slide, it would be all the information on the left side moved to the center. And what we did is, for tonight, we pushed the information over to the left side, and then on the right, an illustration of how the current work scope has sort of shaken out in the process. So if we look at the elements that comprise the site work, including landscaping, storm drainage, parking, pavement, and sidewalk improvements, as well as site improvements, and I'll just highlight the synthetic turf field to the south of the field house, improvements for site safety, simplification of circulation, lighting on the site. All of these elements we put a check mark. So and the idea here in terms of the method for our presentation is the check mark means that it was a pre-bond scope item that has made it to the final scope that's part of the current construction documents that are at the State Education Department at this time. I'm happy to go through all the slides, or I'm happy to answer questions along the way, but again, our approach here is to be objective and also to drill down into the details where we think necessary. The next slide looks at the main building, and there were very specific quantities of light renovation and heavy renovation, and we've been able to stick to those guidelines that were set in the pre-bond effort. And in this context, light renovation means new finishes like carpeting, painting, and it's not a replacement of the ceiling, but painting and sometimes replacement of light fixtures. So no structural reconfiguration is included in light renovation. Heavy renovation, on the other hand, is really scraping the interior spaces back to the structure and to allow us to reimagine and reconfigure the space. So, for example, moving the art studios over from Winston-Tobin to Maine, that falls under heavy renovation. So again, you're seeing check marks on the right side. Gut renovation of all the bathrooms in Maine still on our list. Painting throughout, so we had said that every surface in Maine will be touched, whether it's a light cosmetic improvement through painting or through gut rehab. Where all the other elements on the list, you see there are no missing check marks on this slide. There are significant asbestos abatement projects that will be occurring in Maine, and we hope the first one of those will happen this summer in 2015. Okay. So moving to Salzman, and I will spend a few more minutes on this slide than the others, because this is where the most significant change happened from the pre-bond conceptual planning. And if you remember, those pre-bond plans were actually hand-drawn sketches, and they showed the adjacencies and the general takeoffs. And what we're working on now are very detailed construction documents that allow very precise calculations and permutations of the plan. So number one, originally, and again, this is in the fall of 2013, we had contemplated over 181,000 square feet of new construction. And these are essentially the additions that would flank Salzman that would comprise the core academic wing. At the end of the day, the plans that we brought forward and presented to you last month, and those plans that are up at the state, are slightly under 140,000 square feet. So the reduction in new construction floor area is approximately 42,000 square feet. The balance of the 60,000 feet that we discussed at the last meeting is how we account for existing spaces on the existing campus that are either demolished or renovated. We also, and Dr. Padalino mentioned, sharpened our pencil. We went back and scrubbed all of the square footage numbers. So some minor mechanical spaces and basements and some of the existing bridges that are on the campus were not accounted for. But the message here is that new construction decreased not by 60,000 feet, but by 42,000 square feet. And the balance of that 60,000 is in the accounting of existing square footage on campus. You'll see in the next slide that those reductions were to non-education program spaces. Okay? So there were additional corridors. There was a bridge that was going to connect on the south edge of the building. The south entrance was a more grand entrance, and there were administrative spaces and so on that are reduced or pushed into the Salzman building on the renovation scope. So the other significant takeaway from this slide, the medium renovation trended right about where we thought it would be. Instead of 11,400, it's a little under 10,000 square feet. The heavy renovation in Salzman went from 23,000 to almost tripled to 52,000. So approximately 29,000 square feet of gut renovation space in Salzman was added to the project that was not contemplated in the pre-bond effort. Right? And I just want to take a moment to explain the genesis of that change. If you think about your visit to the campus and the parking lot outside the existing cafeteria and kitchen, there's a significant amount of rock and earth in that location. And in the original design, in our conceptual drawings, we had the 4-story academic wing opposite the cafeteria and the 3-story academic wing next to the field house. And we learned after testing that material outside the cafeteria that the most efficient plan for the high school was to flip-flop those wings. So the 4-story wing is now on the east side of the campus next to the field house, and the 3-story wing is across from the kitchen. And so at the end of the day, we felt that making investments in the program spaces was better than making investments in the rock removal. And we couldn't know that during the pre-bond effort because we didn't have the benefit of all the testing and the engineering and so on that helped us make that recommendation to the school district. So part and parcel with the flipping of the wings was the relocation, you'll see on the next slide, of the cafeteria and other improvements in Salzman that, actually, just stay there for a minute. Go back one slide. That led to that, again, almost a tripling of the heavy renovation scope. All the other check marks on this slide remain, so a gut rehab of the bathrooms at Salzman will take place, those open restrooms on the corners of the wings, roof replacement, windows and doors, including those at the bridges that remain, and then on the energy side, we will have an air-conditioned new core academic wing, as well as upgrades to plumbing and the other systems in the buildings. Okay. So this shift in cost from new construction to Salzman renovation is reflected in a number of the bullet items that are included in this slide. So I just remind that, again, our 142 inventory of classroom spaces has remained. We've never reduced the number of instruction spaces in the high school. Changes that were made were to non-instructional spaces, essentially circulation. The assignment of New York State Building Aid and stakeholder input resulted in a number of these changes that are incorporated into the Salzman gut rehab. So we now have a new learning commons along the main corridor of the building, and I had shared that with the board late last year in terms of the learning commons in the center where each of the 4 houses will have a big flat screen TV. This is a place where students will gather at dismissal and before they go home at the end of the day. The pre-bond effort did not envision a new kitchen and cafeteria, which has been proposed to be relocated to the center of the school, and also the kitchen would back into the service corridor between Salzman and the main building. So again, without that rock removal, we couldn't get access to the kitchen in its current configuration, and that's where that scope came from. There is a significant amount of security, the attendance department, and other elements that are right at the south entrance, but incorporated on the renovation of the Salzman building. We had, again, I think over 50 stakeholder meetings over the course of the last year. We had originally proposed a lighter renovation of the existing library, and we learned through our meetings with stakeholders and our own research that we really weren't going to be able to offer a 21st century library for the high school based on the original scope. And so there was some scope creep. I want to, be transparent in the scope of work for the library. And that's, again, going to allow us to have the most modern scale of spaces within the library for small group learning, for distance learning, for large group instruction. And again, that's part of the scope enhancement at Salzman. The last piece is that we spent a lot of time massaging the location of the wings so that we could maximize our investment on the site costs. And originally in the pre-bond effort, because again, we didn't have the benefit of all the soil borings and the testing, there was a lot of rock removal contemplated. And by massaging the location of the wings, we were able to shift those dollars, instead of investing in rock removal, invest in the education program, the spaces that the students are going to use every day. So these strategies also helped have align the funding mechanisms with the state education building department. The state has separate allocations for renovation and new construction, and that shifting of new construction square footage into Salzman also helped align those funding mechanisms. Fieldhouse, no interesting or new information to report, and I'm glad that we, again, we had this similar number of stakeholder meetings with Glenn and the coaches and all of the other staff that works at the field house. We indeed have a new fitness center upstairs, and then the new wrestling room will be downstairs in the basement. The new entrances and enhanced community access are also still included in the program. And again, gut rehabilitation of both the downstairs and the pool locker rooms, enhancements to the male and female toilet rooms that are in the existing lobby adjacent to the pool. There are mechanical systems upgrades, so we still have the air conditioning for the field house proper, the decision that this board made to make that our community assembly space for KHS. The large improvements to ventilation and again, replacements of systems that date back, in some cases, to the original construction of the building. We are carrying our allowances to demolish both MJM and Whiston Tobin, and you see that, check marks on both sides. And again, at this time, and I said this at the board meeting last month, while we are chasing savings, we cannot recommend that we take those savings today. Okay? We need to have our bid openings. We need to make sure there are no hiccups in the bid environment and in the market that we're in. We don't foresee any at this moment, but we've all seen dramatic shifts in the construction market, whether it's from the sheetrock shortage or steel shortage and so on. So again, these dollars, we're recommending we keep those for the time being, and then as a result of all the phase 1 bid openings, if we can then report back and maybe make a recommendation to put some of those dollars back and not fund those dollars. And that would be our strategy there. We talked at the last meeting about the maximum cost allowance and how dollars are regenerated from the New York State building aid. And this is an example. So since $1 million was invested in the Kingston High School roofing project in 2013, that $1 million will regenerate in 2018. And then similarly with the projects that we intend to get building permits for this calendar year, those dollars will regenerate in 2020. And then the main project, which the $85.8 million, which we expect to get that completed in terms of its building permit this calendar year, that would regenerate, or in January would regenerate in 2021. So this maximum cost allowance regulation that the state started to enforce about 60 days or 95 days before the bond vote is what's causing us to make this recommendation for a big phase 1 and a smaller phase 2 in order to deliver all the projects and keep our commitment to the taxpayers. The last slide for this evening, we just, in case there are questions about the campus plan or the final look at the building, we have this slide in. I think that's the last one, I believe. Is that right? Our associate and senior project architect Blake is here, Mike Deline is here, Robin is here from BVO. We want to engage you in any questions that you might have. We want to be coming back on a very regular basis to talk about issues that are on your mind or the business of the bond. And to enhance, again, our digital file that we're building in the district's website.
Mr. Shaughnessy?
The 2013 plan had this trapezoidal insert in the 2 new wings, which contained, I believe, a 2,000 on each floor, 2,000 square foot. I forget what it was called.
It's a makerspace.
Makerspace.
Yes, sir.
But it was a different. I don't think that's what it was.
It was a multi-purpose room.
Multi-purpose room, right? Now that's disappeared. Is that right, or has that been located somewhere else?
If I could just share with you just a little bit of the background. So those spaces remain. The 2,000 square foot footprint. There's one in each of the 4 houses. And it's the first thing that you see when you come into the house's entrance. And the idea is that it's an interdisciplinary makerspace that celebrates activities having to do with science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. In the original plan, those were 2-story spaces. So instead of a 10-foot ceiling, they had a 20-foot ceiling. And when we met with stakeholders, including security, there was a lot of questions about how do we lock down that space. We had glass on 3 sides. How do we maintain and clean the glass? And so part of our right sizing of the addition was to keep the space, but make it a one-story space. And again, the footprint remained the same. We actually have electrical power that pulls down from the ceiling. You wouldn't be able to do that from a 20-foot high space. So I think that these were right-sized sort of permutations of the plan that again, maintain the program, but changed the architecture.
Well, on the original plans, that view from the southeast, those additions were trapezoidal.
Yes, sir.
And now they're rectangular. So there's a wedge that was taken out of each of those.
That's exactly right. And the way that I described it to the steering committee, the original plan was almost like an open scissor. And by closing the scissors, we simplified the corridor, the circulation, as well as the supervision within each house. And that big, heroic two-story makerspace, instead of being at the end of the wing where you have to travel to find it, it's actually at the knuckle where you come from the cafeteria into the house. So it's sort of front and center at the main transition space.
Okay, it wasn't clear on those 2013 drawings that those were two-story spaces, at least not to me. So,
Understood.
The functional space is still incorporated.
Yes.
Into the 2015 plans.
And again, just background, the way that we're getting building aid on that space is that we've proposed a demountable wall. So from the state's point of view, those function as two general classrooms, or if we need, if we have a population spike or whatever, we need those to function as general straight-up classrooms, we still have that flexibility built in. But when that door is open and you have the access to technology and the flexible use, it really could be one of these modern maker spaces that are so important to the program.
Okay, well, I think it wasn't clear to me, at least, when I saw the March 25th plans, and saying that no program space had disappeared, but those were gone from the wings. That didn't quite square. I mean, I couldn't understand. Or those are still considered program space, though, or educational space. And they're there.
I'm not sure my messaging in the early part was thoughtful, but I think, again, because we're so close to it, we made these high-level messaging to the community and to you, and I take responsibility. It's my issue in terms of how we presented it, and we didn't present it well. But the space is there, and those ingredients that you all signed off on, they are very much embodied in the plan that's been presented to you and that's been sent to the state.
Okay.
Dr. Chikopoulos.
So I want to say first that I am very excited about this project, and I'm very happy that we will have a renovated high school, and it's very exciting to me. I just think at this point we really need to be careful about and open, as you said, about talking about changes and how we move forward. So I was glad to see that you said that you thought that there may be some savings at the end, and I understand that you can't quantify that, but I just wanted to emphasize that that's a possibility. I mean, a lot of what I'm hearing in the community is there's been a reduction of space. How come there's no reduction of cost? And so I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about what the shift, I imagine that that's caught up in the shift in the new cafeteria, and so can you talk about that a little bit and what that means for cost-wise and the shifting of construction and renovation?
Well, thank you for that. That question is at the crux, I think, of a lot of the community discussion. And so first, when we reduced space in the new construction, it would be like taking a room like this and removing 100 square feet from the middle of it. We still have to build all the walls. We still have to build the bathroom that's adjacent to it. So all of the expensive spaces, the science labs and the casework, all the toilet rooms and so on, none of those spaces changed. It was these common area spaces, and the envelope didn't really change. So the cost savings on the new construction side, that 42,000 feet, it's a fraction of the overall cost per square foot of the project. And others can maybe be even more precise about that. But the point is, that savings was not the expensive it's not the expensive parts of the buildings that were saved in terms of the floor area reduction. Now, conversely, gut rehab of an old building in this case from the early 80s, is very expensive. So the endeavor of gut rehabbing Salzman It doesn't meet the current seismic code, which is the earthquake code, so we're having to go back and put bracing into the steel structure. The floor-to-floor heights are super low on that building, so we have to come up with creative mechanical systems because we can't put significant ductwork in the building. So what happened, at least in my reconciliation of things, is that a chunk of savings that came from reducing the new construction area went over to Salzman. And there's also a concern of the team about making sure that if there's escalation or market changes for phase 2, that we've saved a portion of the contingency money to cover any of those unforeseen issues for phase 2. And we don't have a specific number, but the two of those values together is in the $10 million range. The enhanced cost of the additional renovation of Salzman, as well as establishing a contingency budget for phase 2. Did that get to it?
It does. It just one concern I would have is, I guess we're lucky that we could shift those costs because you're going to have to do that renovation in Salzman, right? That was going to increase regardless. So,
well, in hindsight, that may be accurate. Architecture is such an iterative process that we're listening to stakeholders, and we're literally changing the plan every week until we get to a final plan that matches with the budget and matches with the stakeholders' needs. And so, if there's sort of a self-criticism, it's that it would have been great if the concept plan could have been more in line with stakeholder needs, but the process doesn't really allow us, on the sort of the state's process doesn't allow the design professionals to really engage in the project with the engineers and all the tools that we have after the bond passes, and so that dialogue happens after the bond passes.
yeah, I get that, and I get that it's a little bit of cart and the horse thing. If you kind of can't, there's some things you have to.
That's exactly
right. So some of the spaces that we got rid of in this iteration, so the walkway and a reduction of the entrance, those were, I'm going to use the word expendable, even though that's not. Those are spaces that we could get rid of without impacting programs. So I'm wondering if we're tight now. Do you know what I mean? I'm wondering if we're in a place where we are really focusing our resources around educational space, or if there is this kind of extra stuff that's going on in spaces too.
We're right where we want to be with the project. I'm not sure I understand the criteria, but every stakeholder, while we had to make some decisions and they couldn't get their wish list, I think if you ask most staff and faculty, they're getting what is imperative for the students and for the instruction space. Our general classrooms, if you think about MJM, 100% of the classrooms are smaller than the state's minimum requirement. These classrooms are about 10% larger, 5 to 10% larger, so they meet today's modern requirements. I think that this, for example, I think we referred to as there was a walkway that was going to span across. Not a single dollar of building aid would go to that walkway. And again, in being self-critical, we probably shouldn't have had that walkway in the first place. Okay? And I think that once we, again, had the benefit of the engineers, the testing, and the stakeholder meetings, we were really able to focus on the education imperatives, which is what's embodied in this plan.
I'll tell you, as a former principal, I would have not wanted that walkway.
And do you, since sharpening your pencils and kind of going back, and since the March 25th update, do you think we're still on the same timeline? Are we still looking at 2023? Or do you think that there's been some adjustments around that timeline as well?
So our philosophy with the State Education Department is go ahead and ask. And so we actually have a call, and we're asking Carl Thornow again, is there any way to give us relief from the 5-year regulation? Could we regenerate in 4 years instead of 5? We're also working with Kirk Reinhardt, the principal at the high school, to finish the work as soon as humanly possible after the dollars regenerate. So what I mean by that is Kirk has offered to explore with us an option that would actually allow us to decant portions of the building, the whole 3 stories, and get after the renovations and finish it sooner. So to the extent that he's willing to be flexible with where classes are for certain portions of the year, we're working on strategies with PBL to. We got the message loud and clear. I mean, this is not where we want to be with this second phase, and we're working very diligently to see if we can either reduce it or make it sooner.
Just to add to that, it is more than just cutting the building in half and saying, let's take this half and do the work and then flip the lot. We have to do our due diligence mechanically, all the systems ought to be cutting off, and working with the district and the school programs and classes. We just can't arbitrarily draw a line, but we are engaging and looking at that, because we heard last time it is important to try and bring the project back in a more suitable timeline, that for things that we control after the state regenerates the funds.
Ms. Guido.
So to piggyback off of something that you touched on with Dr. Kovitz a little while ago, and about a lot of these talks about things that are, I know, construction sites, it's always the best laid plans don't happen, but we're talking about soil testing and stakeholder meetings and things that are in structural issues that we're now finding out post-referendum. And I think with the public, what I've been receiving from the public is that, why wasn't all this known before? I know you just touched a little bit on what the steps that need to be taken with state ed before we can move forward on certain projects. Can you just speak a little bit to that to clarify why we wouldn't have waited until the plan was, 100%? I think that's the perception, that there should be a revote because it's changed and that everything should have been figured out beforehand. So can you just touch a little bit on why that's not possible?
Well, first, there's a state regulation that prohibits school districts from making significant investments in architectural and engineering services before the bond vote, and that's to protect the taxpayers. So, these plans, they're significant investments in the bond to create these plans. The other piece is, so if we were just adding a dozen classrooms on the high school, or however many you want to pick, it's a simple wing. We meet ahead of time with the principal and a sample teachers group. We can design that entirely in the pre-bond effort. This project is a reimagining of the whole high school. Okay, so we're changing from a 2,000 student departmental method to 4 individual houses. Now the 9th grade academy is already, has years of success under its belt, so that's really great. And we were able to talk to the staff that runs that group and so on. But we weren't able to engage with leadership in the high school and talk about all the details that comprise, like what happens with right now all the counselors are in one suite, and now they're going to be separated into the 4 houses. And it was just, there was no feasible way to have those discussions during the pre-bond phase of the work. And again, get drilled down to that level of detail and build it all into the plans. And so we're really fortunate that we have a scope of work and a budget that allows us to meet all the needs, but it took time to get there and to have a final plan that we could share with the state and get their sign-off on the building aid.
I just wanted to hear you, publicly say that the referendum did have to occur before we could move forward in a lot of these stages, so that because I think that the public is that's a concern and a misunderstanding about the steps that had to be taken before we could get to this point, and that we didn't shortcut them, and that it was a procedure that had to be followed. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Shaughnessy.
I have a question just on the elevation of the west wing. That's going to be, the grade level will be where the parking lot outside the cafeteria is now. Is that, and then when we take down Tobin Whiston and there's a parking area there, that's going to be significantly below or lower than the first floor of that west wing. Is that right?
Well, if I could, I'll go to the illustration. So the pre-bond plan envisioned removing all this earth and exposing what would have been the lower level of the west wing. And what we've actually proposed, and again, to save all the rock excavation costs, is the building will, on the west side, if you were looking from Tobin across, it's essentially an unoccupied basement level. There's no access. And so the whole building sits up a story, and you'll be able to essentially walk across what is today that parking lot adjacent to the cafeteria and have 3 stories of classroom above.
No, I just wanted to get clear in my mind what that was going to look like on that side.
Understood.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Wondering said, tell me more on.
Oh, one note, if I may. We learned today in the car on the way up that the state has signed off on the field house construction documents. So we are just processing the final paperwork, and we'll be able to go out to bid with the field house momentarily.
You're talking about the MEP?
Yes.
Both.
Both MEP and
Architectural
architectural.
and MEP.
Yeah, we have,
From the team side, we're delivering that building permit in the next 10 days.
okay, but you realize that we have to wait till the due diligence study comes back before we can move on that?
I understand that, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the approval of minutes for April 24th and 27th. Are there any amendments to the minutes? Look them individually, April 24th first. Any amendments?
Second.
Okay, motion.
Did you just second?
Seconded, okay, moved and seconded. All right, discussion. Any amendments to the minutes? No? All those in favor of accepting the minutes for April 24th, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We have a special meeting on Monday, April 27th. I entertain a motion to accept the minutes for April 27th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor of accepting the minutes from Monday, April 27th, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And the motion carries. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just have, is it 24th or 22nd?
24th and, oh, it was 22nd. Excuse me. I'm glad you caught that. That was me. It said it on,
Actually on the agenda.
it said on the agenda, but on the minutes it says 22nd. Thank you for the correction. Everybody's going, wait, that was Friday. No. Thank you. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that board members would like pulled from the consent agenda?
P140.
140. Any others?
CS 26 and S31.
And S31. Okay, so we have B140, CS26, and S31. Any others? Yeah, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda minus B140, CS26, and S31.
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
I just pulled P140. Oh, no, sorry, I did vote, sorry.
Is that a donation?
No,
No, okay, well, we'll get to that one.
thank you.
Okay.
I jumped you, sorry.
All right, all those in favor of accepting consent agenda minus the ones that we pulled? Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, and now we'll take P140. I'll entertain a motion to accept P140.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. Yes.
My question is, is Miss Winnick an English teacher or a math teacher? I thought she was an
Did you hear the
English
question?
teacher. Yeah, they have it as math teacher.
No?
She's in English.
English.
Regardless, my son had it.
Okay.
And it says math on the resolution P140.
Okay. So that should be corrected.
Thank you.
Okay. English. Very good. English, sorry. Okay. So, thank you for calling our attention to that.
Sure.
Move the question? Oh, okay.
Oh, you have a question?
No,
Oh,
no, I said it was
No, I
gonna
was
move
just
the
going to
question.
go ahead and vote on it, because
Okay.
it was just a correction. Of accepting P-140 as corrected, changing math to English, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion carries. CS-26, I'll entertain a motion to accept CS-26.
So moved. Second.
Okay. Discussion.
Okay,
Ms.
I
Dowd.
pulled that because I'm curious about the following nurse for Winter Carnival and the following monitors for KHS Play. That was passed. Now, I don't understand why do we get it now when everything else is like tomorrow? You know what I mean? The appointments, we okay them first before we approve them first, but these two have already happened.
Right, and in most cases, I would agree with you. I mean, there are sometimes this comes to us, and I ask the same question: why is this happening? Like if we have a tennis coach who's appointed, and tennis season is going on for 3 weeks. But there are these situations here. Like if you look at the nurse for the Winter Carnival, we had a difficult time finding a nurse for that time. We had someone that we thought was going to do it, then they couldn't do it, so we ended up having someone last minute, which was prior to the board meeting. So we end up getting kind of, I can appoint, for short periods of time to board meetings, so I end up doing that, so we have that coverage. And that's what happens, same thing with the play. So that when we have some of these events where we need someone, and it's not necessarily going correctly through our regular process, but we have to have people there, that's when you see those
So you
kinds
don't have
of...
to post them,
They're just
signed.
accepting, yeah.
But I know every year there's a Winter Carnival, every year there's a play, so I don't understand why we can't.
Yeah, and just by how human nature is, sometimes people say they'll do something and then they won't, and that kind of thing happens.
Okay.
Or they can't, I shouldn't say they can't.
Any other discussion? All right. Those in favor of CS-26, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, and the motion carries. And the last one is S-31. I'll entertain a motion to accept S-31.
So moved.
Thank you. Discussion.
Yes, I pulled that. I've pulled this before because I just don't understand, and it bothers me that we're getting this stuff from February and March and April. There's 35 dates listed. And it's May. So I don't know, is there a shortage of staff? Why can't we get this more on a monthly basis or something?
Well, I mean, as far as Committee on Special Education recommendations, I think we do them in huge batches. I mean, I think that's really, they just...
3 months, though, or 4 months late? I mean, so it's all of February, all of March, and all of April on here. The last time it was 4 months.
And I think,
Okay, just wait a
But to be clear, if they're
These are
changes to
happening.
IEP, they start effective immediately.
Right.
They're
Right.
just, it's a
Right.
formality for us to
Yes.
approve them. So it's not like these students have been waiting since
Right.
February
No, I know
3rd.
the board can't vote against them.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Are these annual reviews? That would
Yes.
take- Oh,
So they're not even
they're
going into
annual
effect.
reviews.
till-
They would be going into effect. for
These are
next
already
school year.
starting annual
For
reviews for
school
next year.
Yeah, they usually start annual reviews, well, we have writing days before Christmas, and then the annual reviews start shortly thereafter, and they're pretty rapid fire. So you would be getting dozens at once. They're happening district-wide.
If I might, I think
Correct.
I did inquire after the last time you raised the question, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they have to wait for some signatures sometimes. Parents.
Oh, parent signature?
Yeah, so that, sometimes that's what the delay is.
But a parent doesn't have to be there
No.
for the meeting.
I don't know procedures, but
There are situations where there are certain parental signatures, or it's necessary to do some parts of the meeting. You have to get consent from the parent in order to do certain things. Some of the delays are exactly what you said, the annual reviews that are for services for next year, and the volume of meetings that we have between January and June are many. So when our CSE chairs go out to chair these meetings, there may be times in which they're out for a whole week, running 12 or 15 meetings a day, and they come back to the office, and when they process the paperwork, that is what, sometimes the delay is getting onto the agenda because the volume of it is so vast that by the time they catch up and make sure they process the paperwork properly, it then becomes where we're delayed here.
Okay.
Students are receiving their services. There are some slowdowns because of parental consent, because a lot of the testing that you have to do in order to do the psychoeducation testing, you need the parents to sign off on that. Sometimes there's a delay there, but generally now most of these recommendations that you're seeing tonight are for annual reviews for services that are for next year. So most of these students are going to be receiving current services throughout the remainder of the school year, and these are something that we go to for next year too.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We have one donation. Do you accept it? You want me to go ahead and read it? Or oh, I'm sorry. All those in favor of S31, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now we can talk about the donation.
It's B116. It's a donation, E.C. Meyer Elementary School. Whereas the Kingston City School District is the recipient of a generous donation from the E.C. Meyer PTA in the amount of $1,410. And the Board of Education does hereby accept with grateful appreciation the donation of $1,410 from the E.C. Meyer PTA.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. Okay, that marks the end of the consent agenda. And next up is the Board of Education reports and Dr. Jacobowitz, curriculum and instruction.
Okay. The curriculum, the Teaching and Learning Committee, I guess now called, was met on April 23rd. We began with a review of the diagnostic tool for school and district effectiveness review process. So all of the schools participated in this, and we kind of went over the outcomes or the reviews that came out of that. So I'm going to give a summary of what the strengths and weaknesses were, or strengths and then the needs of improvement. And I want to thank Ms. Gibbons for collecting such a, and Ms. Pondo for putting it together in such a comprehensive way. So some of the strengths from the plans were, for the review, was a curriculum and the alignment with the Common Core Learning Standards, our instructional coaches, the assessment data from a variety of sources, the use of formative and summative assessment data to inform instruction and student groupings. This was noted as a strength in some schools, but needed improvement in others. Faculty meetings and a focus on professional development and the adaptation of curriculum, monitoring of student progress for RTI, common planning for grade levels, but sometimes co-teachers weren't involved in that common planning, and that was noted, and small group instruction. Areas for improvement were, and this is kind of a general summary, inconsistent use of scaffolding and differentiation, inconsistent use of coaches among the buildings, higher level inquiry and questioning was needed. It was not sufficiently, in some cases, not sufficiently challenging to students at all levels. The use of rubrics were inconsistent among schools. Increased monitoring of subgroup performance was needed in some schools, although they noted progress in other schools. The need to establish short and long-term goals for individual students. Feedback to students was frequently in terms of accuracy rather than strategies that the students could use to improve. Student-teacher conferencing wasn't consistent, and parent and students needed greater awareness of the rubrics. So I know that list of improvements actually sounded really long, but what I'd like to emphasize was that there actually were a lot of strengths in some very substantive and important areas. And it was great to see that we got a lot of accolades for our curriculum and our instructional coaches and the planning and our use of assessment. It was really around differentiation and higher level order questioning and inquiry that we really need to focus some of our efforts, and that was acknowledged at the table. I think that that's something that we're aware of. And also a more consistent use of data and a kind of data-driven instruction model. But I know that some processes for that are actually developing very strongly at the school level, so hopefully we'll be able to share that out. This was actually a very good conversation and gave a really good picture of what's happening across the district. And these reviews are connected to the school level plans and also the district level plan that we're creating. So there's connection among them all. We then moved on to talk about parents' nights. We've had many throughout the year, and there's another one coming up soon. Is that right? I forgot the date. May 14th? Okay, so there's another one coming up May 14th. Where is it? Is it going to be at Miller?
It's going to be at Miller Middle School. It's on the 14th from 6 to 7:30, and the focus on this parent night is going to be have a special education focus, where we're having Joyce Hawk from the Parent Resource Center, Special Education Parent Resource Center, come and give a presentation on the CDOS credential. The CDOS credential is a credential that's available to students with IEPs that show that they're entry-level work ready and the job skills that come along with that. We're also having Tina Lee from NAMI, which is the mental National Alliance for Mental Illness. She's coming to actually to be able to share some resources with parents that are in the community for dealing with mental health and support of families that may have children or siblings or family members that are dealing with mental health issues.
Thank you. I didn't catch all that detail at the meeting, so I appreciate it.
And if I could just add, that night we also had expected to do we had two things going at Miller that night, and we realized that we have a conflict with some of the high school activities, and we wanted to minimize that conflict for as many people as possible. We couldn't change the special ed presentation just as it was, but we had to change the other presentation. So we will be rescheduling that most likely for the fall. First thing when school comes back in. We know that from here on out we start getting into that hectic time. So we didn't want to conflict with the high school performance over at Point Praise. So we weren't able to move one, but we were able to change the other.
Okay, thank you. We talked a little bit about summer school. There'll be summer school sessions at the elementary and secondary levels. Curriculum writing will also happen over the summer. In the elementary level, the focus will be on math with some ELA. And at the secondary level, they're still working out the details, but likely both math and ELA, and then also electives. The final thing on the agenda was a new reading program at the elementary schools called Raz Kids, which is a computerized reading program that makes books available to kids 24/7. So they can go on the computer and they read leveled books that their teachers have assigned them, and then they can take a quiz, or they can even record themselves reading, and their teacher can track their progress. So it's a way to make books and reading more accessible to our students. So that's available. Is it in all of our elementary schools yet? Right. Okay. I know my daughters have come home with it, so we've gotten started on that. And are there any questions about the meeting? Okay. Our next meeting will be June 25th.
Thank you very much. Okay, diversity project?
We had our last meeting of the diversity cadre on April 21st, and what we did there was sort of put together all that we had done for the first 4 months, and we put it out on the web page. So what went up was the diversity cadre mission statement, which was to identify and address the roadblocks that interfere with students fully experiencing all our district has to offer. We also put up some of the goals, which are certainly in alignment with our schools, with our goals of our district. And they were, close the achievement gap, remove the barriers for our minority children and those in poverty, hire a staff that reflects our student population, create culturally relevant classes for our students, and serve as a clearinghouse for good practices, and maintain the gains that we have made. Other things that had come out of the diversity cadre is that we recommend that each school have an equity team on which the diversity cadre member would set, and the equity team would be able to clarify issues of diversity and discuss those, because each school is unique in what the diversity is in a given school. And so they would be able to talk and to share some of the best practices and et cetera that they may have in those areas. And it would start, I think, a discussion within each school level as to diversity and how we can improve upon those students and meeting the needs of those students. Also was recommended a reading list and other material that would be available on the web page of the Office of Teaching and Learning, and that is up on the web page that went up for the diversity cadre. And so it has a list of all the reading material and other resources that can be referenced, and also all of the members of the cadre are listed on the web page.
Questions? Have you received questions? Thank you very much.
So when will your next meeting will be? Are you
The next meeting is scheduled for the May 19th, I believe.
May 19th, yeah.
It's a busy day. Okay, coffee and conversation. We actually have had two since the April 22nd board meeting. The first on April 23rd at Hudson Coffee Traders. Mr. Shaughnessy, Dr. Panalino, and I attended. Two parents did attend as well. Discussion revolved around the budget and misperception on the part of some district-wide parent council members who thought there had been a formal vote on budget items suggested by the DWPC for consideration. There's a clarification here. No such vote was held. It was a discussion at the April DWPC meeting at Miller, for which there was no quorum. However, the liaison, co-liaison, brought the list of concerns back to the superintendent and conveyed them to the team when they were working on the budget. There was also a discussion about the SRO program versus the DARE program. And I don't think we drew any conclusions about that.
I think we discussed that it wasn't really a versus
Right.
thing. They're very different programs. That was really, we didn't really have any conclusions. It was really just a discussion.
And as one parent left, another arrived, and it was opposite ends of the spectrum, one from the high school, one from GW, a kindergarten student. And that mother was very much concerned with getting more resources for their school. So, and she wanted to get involved in the school. She was wondering, because she had heard that they needed more cleaners, and we talked about the occupied rooms versus the unoccupied rooms. Do you want to elaborate on that?
I think we just talked about, well, we had that discussion about the cleaners. We talked about the idea that the PTA and I had met several times about Title I funding and GW and what are some of the things we can do around the 3-year-olds, the 4-year-olds, and those kind of things. So I think her real purpose for being there was to find her path into that kind of conversation. So I think we helped her find her way there.
I think so. And we did have a discussion about class size. She was very concerned that the class sizes K2 be kept small. And Dr. Panalino told her that although there may be a bubble here and there, that is the intention of the district, to keep those class sizes small. And Mr. Shaughnessy, do you have?
Well, I think that she was a new arrival in the district.
She was, yes.
And also, I think we also discussed in the Montessori model,
yes,
the class size, the children are expected to spend more time interacting with each other. And so the recommended class size for that model is larger than it might be for another model.
So it was a healthy discussion. I wish there had been more parents there. On May 5th, there was another coffee conversation, a quick check, and I was the only trustee there for that one. And one parent attended from J. Watson Bailey. Discussion revolved around, and this was a healthy discussion because it was just a one-on-one, around Common Core learning standards, the opt-out movement, testing, teacher evaluation, the unfairness of using test results to evaluate a teacher's performance only, or primarily. Continued touching on No Child Left Behind, what happened with Race to the Top, adequate yearly progress, and adapting curriculum versus utilizing modules from the state. Also discussed was a wide variety of elective courses offered at Kingston High School, the number of examinations required for a Regents diploma versus an advanced Regents diploma, the governor, societal attitudes towards teachers, comparing American students to students in other countries, and also discussed was a new policy for ELL and what that might mean for our district in terms of additional staff. So it was a very lively discussion. And I have an announcement to make. There is a breakfast fundraiser at Applebee's on Saturday, May 9th from 8 to 10 p.m. to raise money for additional musical instruments for J. Watson Bailey. And tickets will be available at the door. They did do some pre-sales, but tickets will be available at the door. So that's all I have to offer for coffee and conversation. The next one is May 19th, busy day, at Monkey Joe's. Do you know the time?
1:30.
Okay. The time is on the website. I do not know it.
I do.
Will do? Okay.
1:30.
It is at 1:30 at Monkey Joe's.
At May 19th. Okay,
On
May
May
19th, 1:30 at Monkey Joe's. Coffee and conversation, the next one. And now, it's the last one for the year. We'll have a new calendar out over the summer for next year. And I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Collins, policy adoption.
Okay, I think I need a cup of coffee after your report. The policy committee tonight is putting forth policy number 4326 for adoption, which is programs for English language learners. We had our first reading of it last meeting. It is attached to the minutes for reference. So I'd like to move that if I might.
Okay,
Second.
All right, any discussion? Policy 4326. All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Our May meeting is going to be a busy one. We're going to be doing some annual reviews of policies, continuing our work since the Jefferson Code has now been accepted. And that meeting, there was a change in the date. Some people couldn't make it. It's going to be on Friday, May 15th, 9 a.m.
Okay.
Materials agenda went out today.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And now, Mr. Shaughnessy, Audit and Finance.
Audit and Finance met on April 28th. We reviewed the first BOE 79 claims letter report for March of 2015. Again, there were no items of concern on that report. I'd like to move the acceptance of that report by the board.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting BOE 79? BOE 79.
BOE 79.
Okay. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We also reviewed the treasurer's reports, the fund reports, and the appropriation status report for March 2015. We moved to recommend the acceptance of that, of those reports by the board. That's BOE 80. I'd like to move that resolution. I'll make the motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay.
All right. All those in favor of accepting the treasurer's report, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
We also had our internal auditor was there. We had a long discussion about the risk assessment. We neglected to include that in the board packet. I'd like to ask the board if we, it wasn't?
It's in there.
Yeah, I
Oh,
just,
I'm sorry. So the item that we're going to look at, we asked was it the spec reports? What was
Stack.
Stack reports.
Yeah.
So that'll be the item of his review, which should be done before the end of the calendar year, of the school year. He's working on that month of May. There was concern about some of the items that had a medium or high risk, but most of those were, for instance, the extra classroom activity reports, and he said that those are always sort of a medium risk area because there's always, it involves students who are being trained, and every year there's a turnover of students, so it's not a situation where, it's always a situation where there might be mistakes made because it's a training exercise as well. It's an educational area. But on all of the other areas that we were, it was low risk and there was no area for concern.
Thank you.
Our next meeting is May 26th.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to old business. Anybody have any old business to bring up? Yes, I'm sorry.
It's okay, you were looking over there first. It's okay. I wanted to ask Dr. Catalino, we had a conversation a few months ago about having art in the 8th grade next year, regular art class, not just studio art, because these incoming 8th graders did not have it in 6th grade because of the transition. And I was just wondering where we are with that.
I haven't followed, I followed up on it initially, but I haven't got a new report on that. Our are being prepared at both our middles and our high, but I will follow up this week and report back.
Okay.
Yes.
And along the art theme, what's happening with the art room at Bailey for next year?
That's an excellent question.
Thank you.
We are still, we've engaged several different people on what we should do, but the question is now becoming whether or not, and we're working with Mrs. Linton on what those rooms, we're going to do some work in those rooms over the summer. We're just deciding which they're going to be. Are they going to continue to be art rooms, or we're going to make them something else and move art rooms back to where they were? So we're talking about that. My feeling is they're art rooms. They're in a perfect place. They're in that section. But I want to converse with both Mrs. Bonville and Mrs. Linton before making that decision.
Okay. But the sound issues will be dealt with, and the noise
Yes.
and all that kind of stuff, because that has been a real problem this year.
It's been a huge problem. I think I said I admitted that was one of our errors there. And, we had hoped to address it more quickly, but then when we started to and realized we had ductwork issues, electricity issues, as well as water issues, it was more difficult than we thought. So we have some ideas and we have some plans for it. We've had some consulting. We're not complete yet.
Okay. Are we ready to talk about, can we talk about pre-K a little bit?
Sure.
Given the report that was in our packet?
Sure.
So will you kind of...
Okay, everybody received the
You want me to?
Yeah, can you just give a summary of what the report was?
Sure. The summary of the report would be that we took a look at our UPK programs. We took a look at the opportunities for possibly expanding that program. And I think we've had this conversation several times. One of the real questions was the feasibility of this. And financially, we felt, with the information that I collected and looking at and obviously you'll run our program through it line by line, but we felt that this time it really wasn't feasible. And two things we saw. Number one, we're not even fully enrolled. So, we look to see, do we want to increase investment in an area? We look and see demand. Now, we're not even fully enrolled. Now, there could be reasons behind that. And I think those are reasons we need to continue to take a look and investigate. We did put a pilot program into JFK this year that was a full-time program, where at the start of the year we only had 14 students in the program, so we had 40 slots. So we decreased the number of slots to 20, made it to full-time, full-time. So instead of having 20 in the morning, 20 in the afternoon, we had 20 full day. for the same students. So instead of 40, we're serving 20. Because we had such a low enrollment, we thought, okay, let's try it full day and see if we get more. And we did get 5 new students enrolled, so we did end up with 19 to 20 students in that program there. But my assumption was there'd be a waiting list. You know, that people would knock down the doors when we did that. But we still, I don't think we're at the place where we're giving up on options. We've met with some of the things that hadn't happened in the past that are kind of picking up steam now with Mrs. Gibbons and Mr. Verge. Is a lot more collaboration, cooperation, and conversation with our privates. I think that didn't happen before. They're calling them together on a quarterly basis, so they're having conversations with them. I actually called in some UPK people to just have a chat with me when I was doing this, just so I had a better feeling about what I was looking at as we were looking at the data. And the question from that part was the same question: was what demand are we trying to meet? Because there are some people who have slots at their daycare that aren't, or at their UPK program that they can't fill, that they're empty, because there are requirements behind it. And I think I put those into the report. The requirements, the student has to be there, 5 days. It has to be there, so it can't just be the parent who wants one day to qualify for the UPK. It has to be that full investment. And like I said, we're not done. I wouldn't say that we're not giving up on the idea. We've also had the discussion of maybe we take a look at giving all of our slots to our private groups. Let them handle it with us assigning someone to work curriculum-wise, program-wise, to have to really help coordinate there. So we're doing a little more, collaboration with them in that way, and providing some of our resources, maybe whether they be human resources, instructional resources, professional development resources. So there's that conversation out there too. So we're still looking at it, even though I gave you that report. I just thought for this year, if we were looking at feasibility for this, looking at the amount of money, it was not something I thought we should be doing this year.
Just a question about the policy about allotted slots. And so if, say, one private provider is not using a certain portion of their allotted slots and other providers have a wait list, is there a way for us to be more fluid with that, or are these in specific contracts?
I think part of that is having those conversations with the UPK providers, which weren't happening as much in the past. I think part of that is keeping a little better handle on that.
Thank you. Oh, sorry. Did you have anything?
Yeah, I did. I guess I had a few questions on that. You showed that we don't have the space in the district at this time to do anything anyway.
Right.
So until we get Mahar up with that possibility, we couldn't do it. So it's sort of mute to say that we're going to do something this year because we don't have the space to do it. The second thing is to me, when we talk about the numbers that's generated, again, the way that we did that to try to find it was just bad. We went full year, but we were late in the year when we went to full pre-K. If that had been advertised at the beginning of the year, I think we would have gotten more people because, I think they would have. The fact that they could have their children in for the full day would have increased those numbers. And again, we all know that what they pay for pre-K, the money that they get is terrible. So that if those programs don't have a wraparound program, they're losing money. So, there's a lot of issues around that. But again, if we're talking about the study that you put in the program, is saying that if we can reduce the number of children that are in special ed, it will more than pay for the extra cost that would do this. So I'm glad that all this is saying is that this time we're not going to do that. But I think we still need to look at it because if we can cut down on the number of special ed children as a result of them going to pre-K, that's going to save a significant amount of money. It's going to benefit kids. And again, it's the type of thing that we don't see the total result until we move them in so that we can close some of this achievement gap, which we're doing a good job. I have to congratulate you on that. Great job that's happening. But I think that we still got room there, and I think that can help to close that gap if they get this early childhood education that they need to get.
And there are so many variables that we're working on right now. I mean, first of all, we look at the very simple ones, like looking at Smart Schools funding. We're just getting our guidance on what can we do with that. Looking at what we're doing with Mahar. So we're just kind of getting